Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first MC Commute of 2019, starring Yamaha's new and improved YZF-R3. My name's Adam Wahid. I'm the senior editor over at Motorcyclist magazine, and I'm going to be taking over the MC Commute duties for Zack Courts. So, without further ado, let's hop on this R3 and see what it's like to ride to work.
All right, everybody, look what we have here. Yamaha's 2019 YZF-R3. This bad boy is new and improved for this year, and Yamaha really wanted to take their entry-level sport bike and align it with its YZF-R6 and YZF-R1. Of course, the R1 was updated last year in 2018, and the R6 was heavily revised in 2017. Things we can really notice about this bike is that huge ram air intake, just like the R1 and the YZF-R M1 MotoGP bike. Looks really good, really clean, sucks in a lot of air. I like this cutout that resembles just like the R6. These clever little gills in the fuel tank like the R1 and the M1. And this top clamp, which again, it's got those cool, clever cutouts that make it look just like the MotoGP bike. Very aesthetically pleasing motorcycle, a lot more sporty. Now, this motorcycle is priced at $5,000, so same MSRP as last year, as the 2018 bike. But the 2019 bike offers even more versatile performance than its predecessor. I mean, first thing I notice when I'm hopping on this bike is just the ergonomics. This motorcycle, it's an entry-level sport bike. It's designed for folks who are either new to riding or want a small motorcycle to ride around town on. And the ergonomics of this bike are much more big bike-like. Starting with the fuel tank, Yamaha actually widened the fuel tank right here by a little bit over an inch. And they also lowered it right here by about 0.8 inches, so it's lower and wider. And what that does is it gives you a little bit more substantial feel. There's clever knee indents below this huge part of the tank, so you can still squeeze the bike with your knees, which is really good when you're braking hard or you just want to add some control when you're under full throttle acceleration. Also like how Yamaha tweaked the handlebar setup on this thing. Before, the handlebars were mounted above the top clamp. Now they're below. They're just under an inch lower. And it just delivers a little bit more sporty riding stance. It's not full-on sport like an R6. That bike obviously has even a more aggressive riding position, but it's not so casual as the previous R3. I think Yamaha did a good job with it. We're here in the state of California, so we're allowed to legally split lanes. This nimble and small R3 is perfect for slicing and dicing through dense traffic. It's really good at that. This version we're riding actually has ABS. This is the up-spec $5,300 YZF-R3 in vivid white. So we have the safety of ABS. That means whenever we actuate the front or rear brake, we can use it as hard as we want, and there's absolutely zero chance of the tire and wheel locking up and skidding. No chance. So it's an important safety feature if you're new to motorcycle riding. I highly recommend it because it allows you to experience the full braking and stopping performance of this motorcycle without having to worry about, skidding or having an accident. An accident due to loss of control, that is. And look at this thing. She gets up and goes. From that stoplight, we were sitting right next to brand new high horsepower cars, and we smoked them. I do like the character of this 321cc parallel twin engine. It's got a pretty good sound. Relatively sporty, just like other Yamaha R bikes and R6. This thing's a rever. She likes to rev. She doesn't have a lot of low-end torque or grunt like a big displacement motorcycle. But that's okay, because it makes it a little bit more fun to ride, because you gotta rev her up to get her going. And even though this is only a $5,000 motorcycle, you know, the componentry inside's pretty high quality. I mean, you got to remember, this thing has forged alloy pistons. That's not something you usually see on a budget motorcycle. 8-valve cylinder head, fuel injection, 6-speed transmission, cable actuated clutch. We've been riding this thing the last couple days, and we've been averaging fuel economy in the high 40s, low 50s. Obviously, when you give her the beans like that, she's a little bit more thirsty. But if you ride her at a more moderate pace, you could easily get fuel mileage in the mid-50s. Even though Yamaha reworked the dimensions of the gas tank, the actual capacity is the same at 3.7 gallons. So, you know, that's a good amount of fuel. A typical big bore sport bike's right around 4.5 gallons usually, so realistically you're going to get more range with this fuel sipping 321cc bike than you would a 600 or 1000. So for you commuters and for you guys who want to make sure you have an efficient sport bike, this thing would be a good machine for that. This gauge panel is new for 2019. It's not color like the R1, but it looks pretty decent. Again, it follows the form of Yamaha's MotoGP prototype. It's loaded with information. Got a horizontal bar graph style tachometer. Whoa, look at this traffic. Can you believe this? So happy we're on this R3 right now. Goes right through all of this traffic like a knife through butter. It's so nimble, it's so narrow, very easy to control with its low 30.7 inch seat height. I'm 6 foot tall, and it's very, very easy for me to stand or to sit flat-footed against the pavement. If you're a person who's a little bit smaller in terms of height, a little bit shorter, I think this bike will work really good for you. Having that low seat height just allows you to have a good command of the motorcycle, especially when you're new to riding. Back to the instrument panel, though, it's got a bar graph style tachometer, gear position indicator, which I always like, fuel gauge, trip and odometer functions. There's also a shift light in there which you can program to any RPM you'd like, so you know when to shift gears. Clutch action of this motorcycle, it's not the lightest clutch pull. I mean, it's light, but it's not the lightest. There's other manufacturers out there who offer a lighter clutch pull, but at the same time, sometimes it feels a little bit flimsy. This actually has some decent weight to it. It feels like a quality motorcycle. It doesn't feel flimsy. And I like that. We got it. Transmission cuts through each of its 6 gears really well. It feels very high quality. On the dyno, this motorcycle makes 36 horsepower. 36 horsepower, right around 10,000 RPM, and 19 foot-pounds of torque. So it's definitely a more horsepower than torque-based engine, and it's a rever like Yamaha's YZF-R3. I do like how wide this front fairing is. It really does a good job of blocking wind, pushing it over the rider. Speaking of blocking wind, Yamaha's been spending a lot of time in the wind tunnel with its R bikes. You know, the R6 was made a little bit more aerodynamically efficient, and this thing is too. Yamaha says it's 7% more efficient in terms of wind drag than the predecessor. And what that does, it just gives you a little bit more speed, especially if you're on the track. You gotta remember, these 321cc engines, they're neat, but they don't have a whole lot of power. So when you're at the track, you know, every little bit of extra aerodynamics helps to get that extra speed. So it's kind of neat to see that Yamaha is not only trying to increase performance through the powertrain, but also through the design of the bodywork and the aerodynamics. Neat attention to detail. Just hear that engine sing. I mean, for a parallel twin, it sounds pretty good. At 66 miles per hour, I don't really feel any engine vibration, but if you get the RPMs up a little higher, around 80 miles per hour, vibration starts to creep in through the foot pegs and a little bit through the clip-ons. Not so much through the clip-ons though, mainly through the foot pegs. I wouldn't deem it an annoyance though. You have to remember, this is a $5,000, well, in this configuration, $5,300 motorcycle. I think we'd be able to live with a little bit of vibration based on that very affordable MSRP. I mean, you got to remember, like, modern pedal bikes like those guys are riding, not those, but like high-end ones, they cost well over $5,000. With the fuel tank topped off, this thing weighs in at 368 pounds, 375 for the ABS version. So it's a very light motorcycle. Suspension on this bike, Yamaha did some important tweaks to the chassis. Starting with the fork, it now has an inverted fork. It's a little bit thicker than before too, with heavier fork springs. And what that does is it just gives the front end a little bit more support when you're really getting after it on the track, or even in the canyons during the weekend. The shock's also been beefed up. The spring rate's a little bit stiffer. Damping's been tweaked too on the shock. The compression damping's slightly less. So what that means is the shock has a little bit faster movement when it's under compression. So a little bit faster movement, but to counteract that, it's got slower rebound damping. So when it returns after hitting a bump, it's a little bit more calm. Damping's fixed. The only form of adjustment is the preload collar on the shock. Seven settings to choose from. It's a ramp style adjuster, so you just go either right or left. Right for more preload, left for less. And modifying the preload basically just alters the ride height of the motorcycle. It just lifts the back end up a little bit or down a little bit. So if you're carrying a passenger, or if you weigh a little bit more, or if you just like a motorcycle that has a little bit more front end attitude, that's what that setting does. This motorcycle does have a passenger rear seat, passenger peg, so you can bring a friend along for the ride. Another cool feature is that it actually has a pair of helmet hooks, so after you get to your destination, you have a place to store your helmet. A lot of other motorcycle manufacturers are going away from helmet hooks for some reason, but this R3 has a pair of them, which is nice. Speaking of the seat, it's a little bit thin, not as thick as I would have maybe hoped for, but again, I mean, the price is right on this bike, and the ergonomics are so well proportioned that I think this bike I could do 100 miles, over 100 miles in a day, no problem. This bike's rolling on Dunlop's new GPR 300, Sport Max GPR 300 rubber. And although this is a budget-oriented tire offering from Big D, these tires work really well. I've ridden them on the track, ridden them on the street, and they have a good amount of grip. They heat up fast. I really like the profile and contour of both the front and rear tire. So as we're nearing our office, is this a motorcycle I would buy? It's a little bit too entry level for me. I would want a little bit more power and performance, but if I was just getting into motorcycling, or I wanted just a friendly sport bike to ride, gosh, I'd really recommend this thing, especially for the price tag. $5,000 to get into sport bike riding with a nice, easy, smooth, well-built motorcycle like this R3, I would definitely recommend it. You know, even though these motorcycles, this R3 is not built in Japan, the fit and finish is very high on it. I like how Yamaha did a good job of hiding some of the cables and wiring. You can still see it a little bit, but it's pretty clean appearance for $5,000. Look at this switchgear, it's all modern. Of course, there's some parts bin sharing, like this front brake master cylinder and the clutch lever. You can see the purchase here for the rear view mirrors. Obviously the mirrors are right here, so there is some parts bin sharing, but again, it's a $5,000 motorcycle. What do you expect? Got ABS, so we can't really back her in. We should be able to do a good wheelie. Yep, she wheelies. And above average ride quality on this R3. The ride's pretty good. The ride's much more like a big bike than before. Well, there you have it, guys. Our first MC Commute on Yamaha's 2019 YZF-R3. Hope you guys enjoyed riding with me. And make sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you want to see next. And if you're looking for more information on this motorcycle, please log on to motorcycleonline.com. Motorcyclistonline.com, I'm sorry, motorcyclistonline.com, and search YZF-R3 first ride. We should have a first ride report from the introduction to this motorcycle. And yeah, that's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.